Could you benefit from building supreme confidence? What would change for you if you played your best when under pressure? What's it costing you to not have the confidence, the poise, and skill to execute when your team needs you most? I've created an exclusive training video designed just for you. I outline the 3 critical keys to building unshakable supreme confidence and dominating under pressure. You'll also find out how you can apply these to your career today so that you can start to speed up your results and follow a predictable system to get you to your goals. Go to IMNOTYOU.com/dominate under pressure. You can go ahead and access that free training in less than 2 minutes. You'll be learning exactly what I teach my high-performance professional athletes and clients about what it takes to dominate. Again, IMNOTYOU.com/dominate under pressure.
If you try to get right, then you listen to my dad. He's a beast. And if you don't want to listen to him, okay, you don't want to get successful. If you ain't trying to dominate, man, then go listen to something else.
Welcome, athletes, top performers, and all those looking to gain that killer instinct, that edge you need to dominate in any environment. This is the Sports Motivation Podcast, and I'm your host, Niyi Sobo. I played ball and succeeded at the highest levels, and I'm now committed to showing you how you can accomplish the ambitious goals and visions that you have. This podcast is designed to teach you high-level strategy, not just fluff and hype. This will cut to the core if you let it. And by taking action on the practical and next-level advice I share, you will see results. Expect that. Expect to be more confident. Expect to be more focused. Expect to be more decisive. And expect to be more fearless. Expect to become the leader your vision needs you to become. So listen up. Take notes. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Sports Motivation Podcast. It's your host, Niyi Sobo. Before I get into today's content, which I'm super excited about because it's going to change the game for you and you're going to have a lot of aha moments during this, I promise. Because I'm going to be giving you a lot of examples from my own personal life. And this is a very, very relevant topic to all those who aspire to be or who already are top performers, high performers. But before I get into it, I want to remind you, you've already been listening to this podcast for a while. You know, on Mondays, I release what I call Get Your Mind Right Mondays. And a lot of people would hit me up. They love these, you guys have been telling me that you love these episodes. I have a ton of fun recording them, honestly, because I love hip hop music. I actually feel like I'm a rapper or something while I'm, recording them. I don't get to rap, but I do get to drop content over hot beats, content that's relevant to you all and helps you stay motivated, helps you get your mind right. And that's what it's designed for. And so what I did was I created a whole nother podcast that's called the Get Your Mind Right Motivation Podcast. All right. And so not only do you get the one that I released every Monday, but you also get another one on Friday. So I'm now releasing 2 episodes of Get Your Mind Right. And the one on Friday will only be available on that other podcast episode or podcast show. You will continue to get the Monday's version on this Sports Motivation Podcast, as well as the Get Your Mind Right Motivation Podcast as well. But I created it because I wanted you guys to be able to press play and get back-to-back motivation tracks laced over hot beats for you to work out to, for you to run to, for you to just zone out to. Very minimal. There's just hardly any ads, nothing on there. It's just straight up content available for you. And I wanted you to have that because I understand the value of it. I understand the value of staying motivated. And I want you to have that. All right. So just go to iTunes, search for it. Search for Get Your Mind Right. Search for Niyi Sobo. Search for Ola Niyi Sobo. Each one of those will lead you to that podcast. And subscribe to it, listen to it, share it, etc. Let me know what you think. All right. So that's for you. So today's episode is going to be very fun for me to explain and talk about because I could relate to it so much. Not only can I relate to it personally, but this is a topic that seems to come up so much with athletes that I work with over the years, teammates that I've had, and the problems that I've had myself All right, so first, let me tell you if you can relate to this athlete. All right, this athlete works extremely hard. We're talking about training their tails off. Always the first one in the gym, last one to leave, doing anything you can to get better. I mean, you're buying books, you're buying new shoes, you're buying new equipment, you're listening to this podcast, you're grinding. You do not get scared of training. You work hard. But at the same time, you're also frustrated by your lack of results, meaning you can't seem to put it all together to actually achieve the result that you initially set out to achieve. So you're working real hard, but you're not getting what you set out to get. You're not getting results when it comes time for game day. You're not playing at the level that you would like. You're not seeing the results, etc. All right. And then you look on your same team. You look on the television. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a teammate. Maybe it's somebody in your classroom. And they don't seem to be working as hard as you. Matter of fact, they might even be drinking before games. They might even be joking around, not taking training serious. They seem to be not as serious as you are. Like they don't practice as intensely, but they seem to be getting the results that elude you. They're actually achieving the things that you want to achieve, but they're not working as hard. So they show up on game day and they deliver and they have fun delivering. They get the favor of coaches. They seem to be laughing and enjoying themselves. And here you are, you're mad, jealous, envious, frustrated. You're mad because you feel like you deserve it more than them. You feel like you deserve to be playing well. You deserve to be playing well. Why? Because you work so hard. And you think that because you work so hard and you work harder than them, then that means that you deserve better results. Can you relate to that? Are you able to relate to that sentiment, that feeling, that idea? So here's what I'm going to tell you, a reality check, all right? They get better results than you, not because they're more talented, no. And it's not because the universe is punishing you or God is punishing you or, woe is you type of thing. A lot of us have this idea that the universe or God or nature cares about whether or not we win or not. No, they don't care whether or not we win the basketball game or we lose the basketball game. It's because they're taking advantage of certain laws, meaning the way certain things work. They're taking advantage of them. And many a times they might not know that they are. But you certainly don't understand because you're not taking advantage of these same laws. And by law, I mean they're utilizing the power of their mind, and you're not. So, for example, with gravity, right? If we're to utilize the power of gravity, would we be utilizing that if we jump off the top of a building? No, because we can't fly. And gravity is going to see to it that we understand this because it's a law. It doesn't care what it is that our goal is. If we don't apply ourselves properly or relate ourselves properly to gravity, we will see negative results or consequences, if you will. And it's the same thing with your mind. All right? It's the same thing how your conscious and subconscious mind works. So let me explain how this works for you as an athlete. So we just talked about I just related the story of those two type of athletes to you. One that works hard, doesn't see the results. The other ones don't seem to work that hard or as hard as other people, but they still somehow seem to enjoy the results. So let me explain how the subconscious mind works, all right? What you believe is true, your reality on a subconscious level. Now, by subconscious, I mean, okay, if you think of an iceberg, the tip of an iceberg is your conscious mind. Underneath the water is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is infinitely times more powerful and more potent than the conscious mind. So I'm not saying what you consciously believe. I mean what you subconsciously believe. Deep-rooted, what you think is true leads to how you feel, all right? And how you feel leads to what you do consistently, and what you do leads to what you get. And for the sake and for the since we're talking about athletes here, what you do on game day leads to what you get, right? Not how much you practice. So it is true that practice, obviously, and training hard has a huge impact on your ability to get results on game day. But think about it. If you can't harness the power and the leverage of that practice that you put up to show up when it matters, does anyone really care how much you practice? When you drop 30, no one's talking about how much you practice. They're talking about how you drop 30. So what you consistently do on game day determines the results that you get. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, given this reality, let's examine the beliefs or the subconscious beliefs of the people who are choking on game day, who practice their ass off but can't seem to get the results. Let's examine their beliefs, all right? And then we'll also do the same thing for the people who show up and play. So for the chokers, for the anxiety-ridden people, for the ones who are constantly fretting and worrying about how they're showing up, practicing their tails off but not getting the results, how do they usually feel when it comes time to play? Stressed, right? Overwhelmed, anxious is what I would say. And what would someone have to believe to be super anxious and stressed out on game day? They'd have to believe, I'm not sure if I can bring it today. If I don't do well, then this is going to be horrible. They'd have to believe that I have to do well. I have to win. They use language that applies more pressure, right? They put more pressure on themselves on game day. If I don't do well, everyone is going to think I'm horrible. Everyone's going to think this. And so in order to think that, you'd have to believe also that other people's opinions really do matter to you, right? You see what's going on here? So it didn't matter how much they practiced. They're showing up with these beliefs on game day. It didn't matter how much practice they put in because the practice hasn't really affected how they're feeling right now. And it's because their beliefs on a subconscious level. This is a powerful distinction. This is for all those people who like to think that action cures all. Oh, if you just put in more work, then everything's going to go away. No, unfortunately, that's not how it works. Making more calls, if you're a salesman, doesn't necessarily get you the results that you want. Taking more shots, if you're a horrible shooter, if you're having problems with something, is not necessarily going to solve your problem. Now, it's not to say you shouldn't take more shots or you shouldn't take more calls. But like we talked about, there's some people who take all the calls in the world, who shoot all the shots in the world, who practice 7 days out of the week, but still can't figure it out on game day. So that proves it's not just about how hard you work. It's not just about putting in a bunch of reps. And again, don't get it confused and say that I'm saying you shouldn't do those things. But if you're anything like me, you're not afraid of that hard work, right? So now we're talking about how do we get to ourselves on a subconscious level? How do we affect what we really believe so that we can actually show up and leverage our skills? So for the ones who don't choke, for the ones who do show up on game day, chilling, relaxing, laughing, calm, poised, cool under pressure. Maybe they even went out drinking the night before. Now, am I saying that's a good idea? Absolutely not. But watch, stick with me. So for those people, how do they feel every day? Or how do they feel on game day, I should say? They feel calm. They feel poised. They feel relaxed. They feel like they're having fun. Now, what would someone have to believe in order to feel those things on game day? The same game day that the other guy doesn't feel those things. What would they have to believe? They'd have to believe that, first of all, this is fun. They'd have to believe that I know I got this. They'd have to believe that if they do make a mistake, they'll just keep at it. It's not the end of the world. They'd have to believe that I'm a baller, meaning I'm the type of person who shows up when it's time to play. They'd also have to believe that this is just a game. They'd have to believe that I've practiced enough. It's time to play now. You see how those beliefs are radically different than someone who shows up feeling so stressed and anxious all the time. They have a more relaxed approach. And so what's happening with the person who's always stressed and anxious is he spent all of his time building his arsenal of responses, right? Building up his skill set. drilling that into his subconscious, which is the bottom of the iceberg, right? But when it comes time to play, he's trying to make his conscious mind run the show. He's trying to have his conscious mind do all the work. He's trying to consciously tell himself to do what's right, force himself to take the right shot, coach himself all the way through the game. He's like training himself up through the game. No, do this, do that, do that. He's like a coach. It's like a teacher. If you're taking a test, it's like a teacher coming right behind your back and telling you, nope, nope, do that, do that, do that. What would you say to that teacher? Get the hell out of my face. Let me do my thing. And that's what your subconscious is trying to say, but you're too busy talking. And that's why you feel so stressed, so anxious. But for the ones who are calm and poised, they allow their subconscious to take over. They allow themselves to actually play. They allow their skill set to actually show itself. So when you practice and you practice and you practice, but then you take that conscious voice in the games, you're not able to unleash your skill because you're talking too much. You're thinking too much. You're keeping all of your skills locked up in a vault because your subconscious or your conscious mind is trying to run the show. And that's why it doesn't matter how much you practiced. It doesn't matter how many hours you put in the gym. Because when you show up to shoot those threes on game day, it's all air. All air. But you were swishing them in practice. Why is it all air? Because you're talking too much. You haven't let your subconscious mind take over. You have the ability to do it, but you consciously try to take over and then it doesn't work. You got to be able to allow your subconscious mind to take over. So the question is, obviously, how do you do that? Much easier said than done, right? Much easier said than done. How do you do that? How do you become the type of player who shows up and is relaxed on game day and actually performs? And not be the player who works hard, who does all the right things, shows up early, all those type of things, but still can't bring it when it's time to play. How do you become that person? Number one is you got to continue or start, for some of you, practicing your tail off, all right? Deliberately and with effort. Practice your tail off. Go hard in training. That's number one. I can't stress this enough because many times we have this romantic idea about showing up on game day and just kind of just being in the zone, being in the flow, having the game of our career, and we think it happens magically. It doesn't. You need to put in the work. You must put in the training. You must put in the time. And the reason why the training is so important is because when you train, think of it like this. Every time you train, you're putting in deposits, all right? Every time you train, every time you practice, every time you learn, every time you improve, every time you make a mistake and profit from that mistake, you're putting in money into your bank account. They're deposits. And when it comes time to play, you can actually draw from that account, all right? You can actually pull from it. But those people who are always trying to use their conscious mind, they've put in a lot of deposits, but they can't remember the PIN number when it comes time to take the money out. So they got all this money in the bank, but they can't even access it. So now we're talking about how do you access it, but first you got to put the money in the bank, right? You got to have deposits. So you got to be practicing your tail off. You got to be doing it deliberately. You got to be doing it under pressure consistently, all right? So that's number one. I didn't want to leave that off because I didn't want to assume anything. We got to make sure that we're practicing at a high level. The next thing is you want to incorporate pressure into your training routine. Incorporate high pressure into your training routine. You cannot expect to go to a high pressure situation having never seen pressure before. This is what creates your lack of confidence. If you expose yourself to pressure beforehand, you are going to be much more likely to be able to handle it before, and you're going to have ingrained in your subconscious mind. You're going to have created those neural pathways on dealing with those situations beforehand so that when it actually comes time to do it, you know how to draw from that, all right? So that also means taking time during practice to consciously quiet the voice, all right? So a lot of times when we're training, we're teaching ourselves, we're coaching ourselves, or we're getting coached, right? You ever notice how in practice, a lot of times your coaches is spending a ton of time teaching you like, yo, do this, do that. Nope, correcting this, correcting that. That's very important. That's a huge part of training, and it's critical. So it's not like the conscious mind doesn't have its place. That's very important. However, if your coach is smart, he also has times during practice where he says, all right, time to scrimmage, time to just play. I'm not going to be coaching you. I'm not going to be screaming, yelling at you, blowing a whistle. We're going to let you play. So you got to be able to do that on your own as well, in your own personal training routine. So there's going to be times during your training where you're going to go hard and you're going to coach yourself. You're going to take notes. You're going to say, okay, I'm doing this, and boom, boom, boom. You're going to try something, stop it. All right, go back, keep going back, trying. And then you also got to have times where you just do it. You got to apply the pressure and say, now it's time to show up. Let me just do it without thinking. So for example, to use the sales example again, that would be just do the sales call without a script. Just do the sales call without a script. Play without getting feedback. Don't worry about what it looks like. Don't worry about if you're doing it right or wrong. Just do it. Just do it. And you're going to have to incorporate those more into your routine. All right? Because if you're the type of player who has a problem showing up when it's game time, then that probably means you're doing a lot of training, but you're doing the type of training where you're coaching yourself and talking to yourself all the time. And again, I don't want to devalue that. There's a lot of value in that, and that is an important part of your routine. However, if it's just that, you're going to continue to be the type of person who practices a lot but can't show up when it's game time. Incorporate game time pressure situations into your training, into your routines. All right? Next thing, get your feedback after your training. Try to limit the amount of feedback that you give yourself during training, all right? Now, by feedback, I don't mean, it's not that you can't say good job or recognize something that's going well or stop for a coaching tip. But again, it's like what I said earlier. You want to limit heavy doses of feedback. A lot of times we're like analyzing our game while we're in the game. It's like, listen, dude, this is not the time to do that, all right? The time to do that was earlier, not when you're playing. So same thing with training. Now that you've incorporated some high pressure situations in your training, do the feedback, get feedback afterward. That's why when we're in practice, when I played for the Saints, anytime I played football, whether at Oregon State, Portland State, we watch a lot of film afterward. We're not sitting there taking 20 minutes during practice to review what just happened. We're giving some feedback. There's some coaching going on. However, where it's a fast pace, and it's designed to put the pressure up. All the greatest teams that I've played for, great coaches that I played for, they incorporate a ton of high pressure situations in their training like that, and they limit the feedback to after practice. So when Coach Payton, when I was with the Saints, he always had a ton of live drills, meaning tackle drills. When you start getting at the high level in pro football, there's not a lot, like coaches want to limit tackling. He was actually the opposite. Now, he didn't have us tackle all the time because it's not smart. You can get a lot of guys injured. However, he did it a lot more than the average coach did because he understood, man, I want my guys prepared. When we get in goal line situations, I want my guys prepared. So he's putting on the pressure. And the feedback happens after training, all right? The next thing that you want to do, if you want to be able to consistently get in that zone, if you want to be the type of player who shows up when it's game time, is you need to be visualizing the perfect performances frequently and including all your senses, including how does it feel, how does it smell, taste, touch, hear, all of the senses. You want to be visualizing very frequently, playing in that state. That's why visualization is so important. Because it trains your brain to have already felt it before so that when you actually comes time to do it, it's not new. Those neural pathways have already been created, have already been established through the power of visualization, all right? Have you ever gone to a scary movie and actually been legitimately scared? That's because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. Even though consciously you know it's a movie, subconsciously you're scared. And that's only because you use the power of visualization. It appealed to your senses. You saw something. You heard something. And that was visualization, all right? So you want to be visualizing your perfect performances frequently. I would sit down at night. I would lay in bed, whatever you got to do at night. I would put on some music, and I would just think about performing all of the things that I want to do in the most perfect sense. If I was a shooter, if I was a basketball player, I would literally picture dribbling through defenders, hitting shots, hearing that, hitting the buzzer go off. I would imagine what it feels like to hit all of the free throws when it's done, when the game's on the line. I would imagine what it feels like when my teammates come and slap my hands like, hell yeah, good job, boy. I would look at my mom and dad in the stands. I would do that every single night if I were you. Every single night if I were you, I would be thinking about exactly how you want it to go. Exactly how you want it to go. Do not be focusing on what you don't want to happen. Because when you do that, all you're doing is visualizing failure. All you're doing is visualizing failure. You're practicing failure by doing that. Now, that's much different than anticipating what can go wrong and coming up with appropriate responses. That's not fear. That's just simply anticipation. But when you're sitting there thinking about all the things that can go wrong and you're getting scared and nervous and all that shit, you're visualizing failure. So you want to visualize your perfect performance frequently, all right? Frequently. The next thing, if you're going to be able to quiet your conscious mind while you're playing and allow your subconscious mind to take over, that's a skill. That's a skill, and that requires practice. And how do you practice that? Through relaxing. So you want to practice relaxing and letting go of thoughts. So how do you do that? Meditation. There's a great app called Headspace. Find something to concentrate on and concentrate your thoughts on it. You can focus on your breath. You can have a mantra that you use and just breathe in. Think about that mantra over and over. If you are intimidated by meditation and have no idea how to do it, much like I was when I first started, I started about 4 years ago, and I had no idea how to do it. I thought it was dumb, but I heard everyone telling me I should do it, so I tried it out. I started doing it 1 minute at a time, 2 minutes at a time, went up to 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. Now I just do it 15 minutes at a time. I don't meditate for an hour every day. I don't meditate for 30 minutes every day. 15 minutes. Pretty soon I'll up it. But you got to start. You got to start somewhere. And so I would use an app, a guided meditation app, like a Calm, or it's an app called Calm or an app called Headspace. Great meditation tools. But without overthinking it too much and wondering, I don't know what I'm doing, just practice relaxing and training your mind to let go of thoughts as they come. Because you're going to have thoughts. Because the only way you're going to be able to get into that zone is when your thoughts are like just little mists in the wind. You're all instinct. You're not really thinking too much. I mean, you're thinking, thoughts are present, but you're not engaged in your thoughts. You're simply there. You're in the present, in the moment now. And meditation and breathing helps you with that, all right? The next thing you want to do, if you want to be able to consistently get in the zone and want to be able to like dominate in those pressure situations while everyone's anxious, nervous, and scared, before you play, you got to remind yourself how grateful you are, all right? Now, you might be thinking, man, what are you talking about, dude? That's corny. Gratitude, right? When you're grateful, you don't really feel that scared about things. You don't really feel that stressed. Like, if you don't believe me, just think right now. Just think of one person in your life right now, honestly. Just bring them to the forefront of your mind. Close your eyes and think about one person that you are just so incredibly grateful to have in your life. Like, you're so happy that you have this person. It could be your mom, your dad, brother, sister, friend, teammate, coach. Like, I'm so glad this person is here. Like, if they weren't here, man, I'd be stressed. Like, I'm so glad I have this person. I'm so happy about what they bring into my life. And as you start to think about that, you will feel a lot differently. And you will not really be stressing out that much. There's a reason why that's the first question that I ask myself every single morning when I wake up, when I do my blueprint. I ask, what am I incredibly grateful for? What could I be grateful for? And I just think about like, man, what could I be grateful for, man? And that question literally like anchors my day. It's like the first thing that I think about when I wake up. And that makes me feel a lot better. It's way better than being stressed. So a good way to make sure that you start being able to play in the zone more frequently is starting to quiet that conscious mind and just simply ask yourself, like, man, what am I grateful for? Man, I'm so happy to be playing this game. I'm so happy to be playing my sport. I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to be on this professional team. I'm so happy to be a starter on this team. I'm so happy to be able to play the sport that I love. Remind yourself how grateful you are. I promise it's an incredibly powerful tool, all right? Now, the next thing, when you're in the game, all right? So we're in the game now. We're playing in the game, and we see those thoughts start to come up. We might even be making some mistakes in the game, right? Like we made some mistakes. Like maybe we missed a couple shots we know we should have made. Maybe we're, not having the energy that we would like. The tendency when this happens is to want to overcoach yourself, to start telling yourself, man, you need to start doing this. Man, do this, do this, do this. And you start being like that teacher who's right behind you when you're taking the test, screaming at you, telling you, no, don't do that. That's wrong. Check that, cross that. And you're like, get out of my face. I'm trying to take this test, man. I don't need you in my ear. And that's what we become to ourselves. So when you're in the game, you want to use gentle and minimal feedback, all right? Minimal feedback, but gentle feedback and self-talk. So you want to be thinking gentle redirection. Just gently redirect yourself. So if you're missing a shot, it's all good. You got the next one. That's it. You don't need to overcoach yourself. You don't need to give yourself a whole spiel, a whole paragraph long of encouragement, positive self-talk. No, just gentle redirection. It's all good. You get the next one. Yep. Good work. Even with the encouragement, you do something great. There we go. There we go. Gentle self-talk, gentle redirection. This prevents you from getting too high and too low, all right? Because many times we can get too high as well. We can start gassing ourselves up like, oh, yeah, I'm on fire, baby. Oh, yeah, nobody can stop me now. And then all of a sudden you miss the next few, and now that positive self-talk is now going down the drain. The way to remedy that is just gentle, gentle, gentle. There you go. Good, good. Yep. Nice work. You got it. It's all good. You're right back on track. Gentle redirection. This prevents your conscious mind from getting too active. And because even if you're doing something that's not the best, remember, because you practice your tail off, your subconscious mind knows what to do. It knows what to do. You don't have to say too much. It knows, something just happened that you didn't want it to happen. So just gentle redirection, all right? The next thing that helps me out a ton. I mean, and I don't do this enough, quite honestly, and I've been consciously focused on doing this a lot more because it helps. Reviewing your training journals, all right? So I keep a ton of journals, and you probably do as well. You probably got your training records. You've been recording how much you worked out. Maybe you've been recording things that go well. I always encourage athletes to do that, to keep track of things that have been going well, the positives, the successes. What this does when you review these is it reminds you how prepared you really are and gives you more trust in your conscious mind or subconscious mind. All right, because just think about it like this. You got this subconscious mind that's so powerful, so strong, so much more powerful than you are, by the way, consciously. And you keep telling it what to do like it doesn't know what to do. It already knows what to do. Matter of fact, it knows better than you know, but you keep telling it what to do. What you need to do is shut up. That's what you need to do. And let your subconscious mind take care of the rest. Now, what do I mean? It sounds like I'm talking about two people here, because I kind of am. You read a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a great book. Can't remember the author. It's a powerful, powerful book. But he talks about you have self number one, self number two. Self number one is the conscious mind. Self number two is the subconscious mind. Self number two, the subconscious mind, knows what to do. It's responsible for your heart beating right now. It's responsible. If you get a cut, it's going to go and heal that wound. It's going to create the scab. It's going to heal that scar. It's responsible for digesting your food. Now, what would happen if you tried to digest your food? Would you know what to do? Absolutely not. But you have that mechanism already inside of you right now. It's a part of you. And it's digesting your food. It's breathing for you without thinking. It's making your heart beat and distribute blood, oxygen, nutrients all throughout your body effortlessly without even thinking. There's no thinking that's involved with me right now. My heart is beating. I'm breathing. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? So when you remind yourself of these past successes, it's almost like you're reminding yourself, like, your subconscious mind is going to figure that shit out. You know what to do. We're going to be all good. So review those training journals and those win records, all right? The next thing is you want to be able to reflect on past successes very often, all right? Things that went well for you, times where you were really playing at your best, you want to reflect on those. A lot of times, and you might be the same way. I'm this way, where sometimes we don't want to look too much in the past and say, like, man, that's done, because we're achievers. We want to keep getting more, right? And that's a good thing. We're not the type of people who sit and, what they call it, rest on our laurels, right? But resting on your laurels is a lot different than simply reflecting on successes in order to confirm and reassure you that you can do it, that you've done it before, that you're able to do it. And then it makes it a lot more easy to let go when it comes time to play. So if you're playing in a championship game and you remembered that when 5 years ago, you were in a championship game in college and you played your ass off and you did very well, it will help you before you're playing in your next championship game. It will help you, remind you, you know what, I did this before. It's all good. I did this before. And you can allow your subconscious mind to take over and your conscious mind to go take a break real quick. All right? The last thing, which is super important, is you want to be able to put the game in perspective. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. So it was my second year in New Orleans, right? And I was playing against the Oakland Raiders. It was a preseason game. And I've talked about this game before, actually, because this was the same game that I got chewed out by the head coach, Sean Payton, when I made a mistake. But I want to talk about what happened during this game because I was actually that player that I was talking about. I always train hard. I never had the problem of not training hard. So much so, I actually got an award for my attendance when I was with the New Orleans Saints because I went to every single workout and some. I didn't go back home. I was there all summer, and I had perfect attendance in the off-season workouts. I was always there. So we go to this game in Oakland, and it was hot that day, and we were smashing them. And so we kept running the ball on them, and I was playing a lot. I was at fullback. And I was just getting exhausted, man. Exhausted. Like I was tired, legit. And I had all my family there, by the way. All my family there, my grandma, my brothers. And I was pretty nervous. I had let my conscious mind take over. I was dealing in a lot of fear. I didn't trust my subconscious mind to take over and do its job. And so as a result, I was really tired. My legs were rubbery. Have you ever felt that? When you're overthinking in a game and you're tired and your legs start getting rubbery, you feel like you don't have any power. And that's what was happening. And I didn't play at my best that game. I really didn't play at my best that game. And I was in the best shape of my life, by the way. Best shape of my life. So me showing up and being tired really wasn't supposed to happen. So technically, I had all the conditioning that I needed to play at my highest levels. But I couldn't show up. Why? Because my conscious mind was in the way. Now, I want you to contrast this with this situation right here, okay? So this is my first year in New Orleans, and it's the last preseason game. And if you know anything about NFL football, the last preseason game is when most of the guys who are on the roster, like the free agent guys, the young guys, the rookies, this is when it's their time to shine because the rosters are getting trimmed down all the way to 53 people the very next day. So about 20 plus people are getting cut off the roster. And so what you have on this last preseason game is pretty much guys like fighting for their survival, literally, because it's do or die. It's like, yo, I don't want to go home. I don't want to pack my bags and show up back home like, hey, guys, I gave it a good run, but, it didn't work out. And so needless to say, it's a very, very stressful time. It can be a very stressful time depending on your approach, right? Depending on your approach. So it's my rookie season. I don't want to go home. It's been a pretty stressful preseason, just to be honest, watching all these guys get cut, transitioning to the NFL, dealing with guys who are bigger, faster, stronger, et cetera. But I knew what I wanted. I knew I could play at that level. But it was stressful. So it's the last game. And so I remember because my son was supposed to be born around that time, within that week, right? And so we were kind of keeping it, my second son, D-Ron. And so he hadn't been born yet. And so I'm playing this game. So I'm pretty stressed out and pretty nervous and things like that leading up to the game. And so I remember right before the game, we're playing I think it was the Miami Dolphins. We're playing the Miami Dolphins at home, last preseason game. And I'm in the bathroom and I have my phone there and I get a text message. And it's a picture message. And it's a picture of this little baby wrapped in these blankets with a little beanie on. And the message says, he's here and he's perfect and he looks just like you. My son was born. My son was born like literally right at that time before my game. And when I saw the picture and I realized my son had just been born, I was so happy. I was so overjoyed. I could have like screamed in the stall, right? But I didn't. Took care of what I had to take care of. And I wrote back. I remember it was a grandma, his grandma who sent me the message. And I was so happy, man. I was so excited, so juiced. And we're still in the locker room preparing to go out to the game. And so what happened was I had this smile on my face. I remember I was just grinning from ear to ear like, man, that's my son right there, my son. I showed my friend like, no, I'm like, yo, my son was just born, yo, like just now. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I get dressed. And I remember the feeling that I had warming up for that game. I was so loose. I was so calm. I was so happy. I was so juiced. And I wasn't even thinking about football, quite frankly. I wasn't even thinking about football. I was thinking about how excited I was to go see my little son. I was thinking about, man, I can't wait to hold him. I got 2 sons now. Because I already had my first son. I was like, man, I got 2 sons. I'm so lucky. I felt so grateful. I felt so happy. This is leading up to the game. I go in that game. I'm telling you, I had the best game that I've ever played in my life. Best game I've ever played in my life. I was running out there. I was blasting fools. I remember on special teams, that whole time leading up in that season, I was having problems on special teams, man. It was tough. I didn't play a ton of special teams in college. So I was like, having to get around these blocks and stuff. Man, this game, I was fighting through people. I was using my hands, making tackles. I made my first 2 special team tackles that game. I hadn't made any all season or all preseason. Made my first 2 tackles. I was out there having a blast. And I was out there putting fools on their back. And guess what Coach said afterward? Coach Sean Payton pulled me into the office the very next day. And he said, you know what, Sobo? I haven't watched the film yet. But you know what? I heard you out there. You have a spot on this team. I was hitting people so hard. He heard me. He heard the collisions of the helmet. That's what he told me. He said, I heard you out there. You got a spot on this team. And then he booked me a flight to go back home to see my kid. And they paid for my flight. They booked me a flight to go back home and see my kid. And I came back. I had made the team. Now, I tell you this story because when I played against the Oakland Raiders, my conscious mind was active. My thoughts were active. I was thinking too much. I didn't trust myself. But when I played against the Dolphins at home, when my son was born, I was excited. I was happy. I had put that game in perspective. That game didn't mean shit to me, quite frankly. I'm sure if I would have got cut, I would have been upset. But guess what? I was more excited to see my son. So guess what I did? I let go. My conscious mind turned off and I let my subconscious mind take over. And I was doing things I didn't even know I can do, quite frankly, that I had been practicing, but I wasn't sure I can do them. All because I let go. I let my subconscious mind take over. I put things in perspective. I was out there happy. I was enjoying myself. And because I did that, I was able to leverage all the practice that I put in because I did work hard. I did train hard. I did practice my skills every day. So what does this mean for you now? Because maybe you don't have a son on the way, right? And maybe you can't time it up so that, you get the birth of your baby boy, your second son on a day you play your game. But what you can do is you can put things in perspective. You can consciously turn off your conscious mind. You can say to yourself, you know what? It's time to play now. And I'm going to go out there and have fun. Because that's what sports is all about. Sports is not about being stressed out. It's not about being angry, frustrated, being all uptight. Sports is about having fun. And guess what? Having fun has a lot to do with challenges, has a lot to do with pressure. So there'll be a lot of that. But you don't have to put more on yourself than you need to. At the end of the day, there is no one performance. There is no one title. There is no one championship. There is no one game that's going to ever define you. So there's no need to be so uptight. So my suggestion is keep training your ass off. Keep practicing, keep growing, keep getting better. But when it's time to play, turn the conscious mind off. Go out there and play. Go out there and play. That's what people want to see anyway. They don't want to see athletes out there overthinking, worrying too much. They want to see people out there trusting their instincts, showing how sharp and refined their instincts are as a result of their high-level training. But you're cheating them if you don't do that. So go out there and have fun. Go out there and have fun. That's how you get in the zone. Have fun. Have fun. Train hard. Have fun. And learn afterward. Go watch the film afterward. And just realize it's a journey. You're going to continue to get better. You're going to continue to get better. All right? So listen. I don't want to have you thinking that, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be in the zone every time. Unfortunately, that's not how it works either. And there's a mystery. There's a lot of mystery in this thing called life. But what I can tell you through my own experience, is that the harder you train and the more trust you have in yourself, the easier and faster it will be for you to get in the zone. And you will get to the point where you can get into the zone on command, where you can be a Jordan, where you can be a Kobe, where you can be a Steph, a LeBron, where these guys have refined their games to such a degree that they just go out and perform. They just go out and do it. And it's second nature to them. But there is a price to be paid for that. And you must be smart. And it's not always about just working hard. It's not about that. It's not about just working hard. It's not about just getting in more reps. That's not what it's about. You don't have a problem putting in the reps. And if you do, go back and start listening from day one of this episode of these podcasts, and let's get you trained up. But at this stage, doing the reps ain't your problem. We now got to start understanding how our mind works, how the conscious and the subconscious mind works, how to strategically train, how to give feedback, when to give feedback, how to give it, how much to give of it. And we've covered all of that here today. All right. So this is a very, very important episode for you. This, if you can master these concepts talked about here, you're unstoppable. That's no exaggeration. If you can learn how to find that balance between training hard and being able to let go when it's time, you're dangerous. All right. So I want to encourage you to keep going. I want to encourage you to don't get jealous. Don't start resenting other people. Don't resent other people who work hard or who might not work as hard as you, but get great results. Look at what they do. Look at their game day mentality. How do they show up game day? Maybe you can take some things from that. And then with your training, with your work ethic, coupled with the things that you learn from these gamers, you're now unstoppable. That's a Jordan. That's a Messi. That's a Floyd Mayweather. That's a Conor McGregor. That's those type of people. And you can be that. I promise you can be that. You can be that. All right? So keep at it. Keep going. I respect you. I love you. Make sure if you haven't already, please rate this podcast, all right? please rate this podcast. I had my wife pick up something for me the other day, and she had to look at, on Google, she had to find like which stores had it, right? And she told me which store she picked, and I was like, well, why'd you pick that store? And she said, because it had the most reviews. I was like, dang, that's true, right? I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, and most of the time, if I have to choose, I'm picking which one has the most reviews and the highest reviews. So I want people to listen to this podcast because I put my heart on this podcast. I put my heart into this content, and I work hard, and I learn every day for you. I refine my skills every day for you. And I want more people to find this podcast because this is what I do. This is not just what I do for a living. This is what I've been called to do. So do me a favor and do the world a favor. Leave a review. Tell me what you think. I want to know what you think. If it's 2-star, leave that. I want to know what you think. I want to keep getting better for you. I want to keep improving. I'm going to keep dropping heat. I'm going to keep doing my thing for you. All right? So much love. Keep at it. We'll talk soon. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Motivation Podcast. Make sure if you dig in the podcast, go and subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. I come out with a new episode twice a week on Tuesday and Friday at 3 a.m. Eastern. And make sure you go ahead and rate it and leave me a good review. As always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love. One of the most common questions I get from athletes all the time is this: what is the single best thing I can do to reach my goals? How can I set myself apart from everybody else? Obviously, there are a lot of things, but the one thing that's helped set me apart was having a coach, a mentor, someone to show me the right strategies and how I need to do things specifically to achieve my results. So you could try to do it on your own, but you'll end up making many mistakes that could have been avoided if you had someone guiding you and coaching you along the way. 99% of athletes in the world have expert coaches to show them the things that they can't see. If you want to work with me as your coach, I want you to go to IMNOTYOU.com/SRC and learn more and sign up for a free coaching session. I'll give you 60 minutes of my time for free, and I can teach you some dynamic strategies, plus show you how you can secure me as your sports results coach. All I ask is that you fit in this criteria. You're serious about your sport, you're willing to invest the time and money, and you have clear goals of taking your game to the next level, or some sort of specific results you want to achieve. This is definitely not for everyone, and I have very limited spots available for this. So, if this applies to you, I want you to take action. Go to IMNOTYOU.com/SRC, and I guarantee you're going to take your game and your career to the next level.